are blocking access to government buildings and have forced Parliament to postpone its debate on a controversial plan that would allow extraditions to the Chinese mainland. Critics say it will see Beijing step on civil liberties in Hong Kong, but the city's chief executive said she'll not back down, and that was already after mass protests on Sunday. To take a closer look, we're joined, as you can see, on set by Philip Troll from our International Affairs Desk. Philip, we're seeing, thousands of protesters take to the streets once again this Wednesday. They have got Parliament to postpone its debate on the bill. Are they winning?
Well, you can see them here. There are several thousand of them out on the streets of Hong Kong protesting against this controversial extradition bill. OK, let's put it this way, shall we? They may have won a battle, but they haven't won the war yet. And the problem for them is that whatever happens, there is enough support within the Hong Kong legislature, enough pro-Beijing support for this bill to go through. So many of these protesters believe that the only way they can get any further with their demand not to get this bill through is to go to the streets, because they know that in the legislature they have no chance of winning. So today we have seen thousands of people out on the streets. There have been 100 Hong Kong businesses which have closed shops and offices in support of the protesters. Bus drivers have been going slow, also protesting against the measures. And there have been boycotts of classes at universities. Will this be enough? Well, for the moment, nobody knows. As we have heard, the government has decided to delay discussion on this, but the final vote is still scheduled to take place on the 20th of June. And those figures I was just mentioning, those figures within the Hong Kong legislature do add up in favour of that bill being pushed through. There are 43 pro-Beijing MPs in there, compared to only 24 pro-Democrat MPs, and 13 of those pro-Beijing MPs are from one party, and that's the Conservative Party. So it's going to be very hard, and I think that explains why you see so many protesters out on the streets today.
But indeed, Philip, explain to us more, what does this bill contain? Why are people so worried about it?
Well, the bill has got a lot of measures in it. Let's have a look at some of them, shall we, on the wall here. It allows for extradition to mainland China and to other countries where there is no extradition ruling between Hong Kong and those countries. The Hong Kong legislature says it will only be affecting those who have sentences of 7 years or more. It will prevent Hong Kong from becoming a refuge for fugitives, and the law does meet the standards for human rights. Now, that all sounds fine on paper, but the protesters are saying, well, look, hold on a minute. If this bill goes through, that doesn't prevent it from being tweaked at a later date, and maybe the 7 years being reduced to 5 years or 1 year, and that will open the door to far more people being extradited to mainland China to face trial. And the justice system in mainland China is not as free and fair as the justice system in Hong Kong. So they're very scared that this is just a whitewash, if you like, to come up with a bill that's going to go through looking fine, but in fact, at the end of the day, that bill is not fine, and they fear that, for example, those who are dissidents in Hong Kong, those who are against the system in Beijing, may find themselves much more easily extradited to mainland China, where they could face trial. Now, where did all this start? This actually started with a Hong Kong man who went to Taiwan, where he murdered his girlfriend. He was only 19. Then he fled back to Hong Kong. This was last year. And the Taiwanese authorities say they want him to be extradited back to Taiwan to face trial. But Hong Kong says they can't send him back because there's no extradition ruling between Hong Kong and Taiwan. And that explains why this bill has come up now.
Indeed, the chief executive of Hong Kong, Carrie Lam, says the bill is in fact necessary and that protesters don't really understand that it has required safeguards. Does she have an argument there?
Well, if you are in support of Carrie Lam and you're in support of the Chinese government, then obviously she does have an argument. The protesters are simply saying, well, look, Carrie Lam is a puppet of the government in Beijing, and she's basically doing what they're telling her to do. This is a few facts about Hong Kong for those who are not too familiar about the situation there. As you know, Hong Kong used to be a British territory, part of the British Empire. It was even called the jewel in the crown of the British Empire. It was handed back in 1997. And when that handback happened, there was a 50-year deal to retain freedom of speech and an independent judiciary. The protesters are saying that mainland China, which now controls Hong Kong, is doing everything it can to chip away at that 50-year deal to reduce it further and make it easier for Beijing to have a say in what goes on in Hong Kong, and that's why they're against it. And that has been jumped on by several international countries around the world. The United States has voiced concern about what's going on, so has the European Union. Even New Zealand has refused to send back a murder suspect to China as a result of what has been going on in Hong Kong. And there have been protests also in Canada over this, outside the Hong Kong embassy in Vancouver in the west of Canada, where protesters are saying that this bill should not go through because it's going to undermine all the possibility of independent judiciary in Hong Kong.
OK, Philip, thanks a lot for that. Philip Thurl there from our International Affairs Desk. Well, it's time now to turn